Hey y'all, welcome to Cloveroom. Today I'm going to be doing a first impression try-on et al. Of the new Glossier liquid highlight, the Skylight. I don't remember the last time I was so interested in a new product kind of immediately. I consider myself pretty much an expert in Glossier. I've tried nearly all of their makeup products. So I feel like that knowledge can be helpful here. And I like this type of product. I have a lot of questions about the product. So I just thought I'd be a good candidate to review it. So I did go ahead and pick it up at Glossier Atlanta, their retail store at Pond City Market, if you're familiar with Atlanta. I am excited to try it. So I'll be trying it in this video. I think I'll be swatching it against some stuff that I have because I'm curious where we can classify this product. And yeah, hopefully answer questions if you're curious about this product. This isn't a review, it's just a first impressions. I will update y'all hopefully down the road when I get more use from this product, how it's like fit into my makeup collection and all of that, but I take a long time to decide if I like something. In a couple videos ago, I had used up a bronzer and I had completely used it up and I was like, I think I like this. Like, I don't know. I change my mind a lot and I find new ways to work with product and all that. So all that to say, not a review, but a first impression, and hopefully we'll have some helpful information in here for y'all. And if you are new, welcome. My name is Cam. I'm a trans film creator. I love beauty, and I try to be a little bit more conscious about what I buy. I don't do a ton of reviews or first impressions or anything, but when I am excited about a product, that's when I typically will bite and try it. I talk a lot about consumerism. I talk a lot about my gender identity, and talk a lot about like how beauty makes me feel. So if any of that sounds good to you, you can go ahead and subscribe, give this video a like, helps me a lot, and let's just go ahead and get into trying the product. I'm excited. So yeah, I only picked up the Skylight and one other thing. I did really want to try Glossier's sharpener. I have wanted this for so long, and I thought it was kind of on theme. Skylight is definitely inspired by the very popular liquid highlighter. I think it was called the Night Shine from Glossier Play, which was a subline of Glossier that I don't think lasted very long, but definitely had some popular products in it. I was not into the Glossier of it all when that stuff came out. I wasn't really buying makeup like that. So I always feel like I kind of missed out on a lot of the fun products that Glossier released during that time. So that was definitely a reason why I was super curious and wanted to try this, kind of capturing the Glossier Play magic. Although I guess it wasn't really magical because it went away fairly quickly. And I do want to say, I think it's interesting as somebody who's been following Glossier for a while and who has owned and used up a lot of their products and still has quite a bit in their collection from Glossier. Glossier, often there's like, I feel like very easy things they could do. And I feel like the easy thing here would have been to just re-release the highlighter as it was in the original packaging. Maybe you don't call it Glossier Play, maybe you just call it Glossier, put it in the main line. Glossier never wants to do stuff like that. They're like, we'll bring it back, but we want to like redo it and iterate it and update it, which I think is a good thing. I think they're trying to not be lazy, I suppose, sometimes. But I just often wonder with the brand, why not do the easy thing? I think back, this was a pretty long time ago, when they released their original liquid bronzer product, which was Solar Paint, which was one of the worst products I've ever tried. It's terrible. All people wanted back then were the cloud paints in bronzer colors. And they said, no, we'll do you one better. We're going to come up with something better. And again, I love that attitude. But then when they finally did come out with the cloud paint bronzers and discontinued the solar paint a year or two ago, the cloud paint bronzers came out in this sea of cream and liquid bronzers, and I feel like weren't nearly as popular as they would have been if back then they had just released the cloud paint bronzers instead of doing the solar paint. And I just feel like Glossier constantly kind of does stuff like this, and I think sometimes it works out, and then sometimes it is just like, why not just release the OG product again if people are really craving that? Just something I wanted to note. I think it's interesting. But yes, I bought Skylight. Like I said, I bought the lightest shade, Lunar. I do have some footage of the two neck shades in the line. Those three were definitely the ones that were going to suit me. The other three would have been quite a bit too dark, which is great. So I'll insert some footage here of swatches I did in the store. I did some thicker swatches and then blended out swatches on my hand. Filmed when I left the store how they looked in direct sunlight because it's always so different than what you see in a store. I picked Lunar because even though I was like, I feel like it's a little too pearly for what I want, the pink, I just was not vibing with at all. I was thinking I would maybe pick up the pink. Online it says it's like a rose gold with like a cool tone sparkle. I just saw like rose peachy on my hand and I just I know myself and I usually will reach for something that's a little bit more champagne-y golden than a pink. And obviously I want to get use out of this product. If you hear a dog chewing a bone, it's because my dog's beside me chewing a bone. And then the next one was just too deep for me. I think it maybe would have worked, but it was a lot more peachy gold. This one's a little bit more like pearly champagne is how I would describe Lunar, at least based off my initial swatches. And I just thought it'd be the one I'd get the most use out of, so that's why I picked it up. I also picked up, and this is very much in line with like the theme of Glossier Play coming back, I finally picked up the Glossier sharpener. I've wanted this since the Play days, and then it was discontinued. Everyone always says it's like the best sharpener, and then they brought it back a while ago, but I just didn't need one. But now like I have this e.l.f. sharpener and it's fine, but it's like constantly coming open and getting everywhere, and I just thought this would be kind of on theme, and this is something I've wanted for a while, so I bought this. It's so cute. And I just feel like it's going to be a lot less messy because I sharpen my e.l.f. lip liners a lot, so it's something I need, and it's so cute. So I love that. Okay, just to give you some like cold hard facts about Skylight, it is 8 mils of product or 0.27 ounces. I'm probably going to be talking about that a lot because that's something I'm interested in, but we'll get into that. It's $24, which I don't think is a bad price at all. I think given what makeup prices are these days, I was expecting it to be more like $28, $30. So I'm kind of happy with that $24 price tag if I'm honest. And it comes in 6 shades. This little carton comes in. It's like every other Glossier carton. I will say, when I got in the store and picked up the products to try them, I was really, really happy to see that it's in a really nice, thick glass. And it feels actually pretty nice and weighty in the hand. I was expecting this to feel a lot chintzier and be plastic. So I'm really happy that I think it's glass. I'm just looking close to this glass. Yeah, that's glass. So I'm really, really happy they chose to put this in glass. I actually love this packaging and I love the way this feels in the hand. And again, I think for $24, I'm actually pretty happy. It comes with, see, I don't know about this. This part of the packaging I don't know about. It has a brush on the end of the applicator instead of a typical doe foot. And I'll show y'all. I don't love that. They say it's to like for pinpoint accuracy, and when they tried it with the doe foot, I guess, too much product dispersed, but like there's like a glob of product on there. I don't know how that's going to be accurate. So I don't know about that decision yet, but we'll see how it pans out. And then I'll give you their language on it. It's a skin-loving liquid highlighter for pearlescent radiance infused with complexion-inspired micro pearls. Girl, this buildable formula delivers long-lasting radiance that is non-sticky, non-tacky, and never streaky. I will say the swatches dried down completely on my hand and did not leave behind any tack or stick, so I believe that claim. Infused with complexion-inspired micro pearls. What on God's green earth could that mean? Like, what is complexion-inspired micro pearls? So they're pearls that are tiny that were inspired by skin? Sometimes I feel like makeup and beauty marketers just type words to type words and they see what goes through, because that means nothing. But they have I was kind of surprised when I went to the website. They have like a lot of claims about this, up to 12 hours wear, which is like a nice claim. I feel like that's like a longer time to wear makeup for sure, but at least it's not like 24 hours. 24-hour hydration, whatever. Transfer resistant, sweat resistant, water resistant, humidity resistant. So basically they're advertising this as long wear. Again, it did dry down completely on my hand, the 3 swatches, so I could see that being true. And they described this shade that I bought, Lunar, which is the lightest shade, as a white gold with gilded pearl. I felt like all of the 3 lighter shades, even the pink one that had the silver sparkle, were pretty warm leaning. I think if you have cooler undertones, I don't know if this is going to be the highlighter for you, because even this shade, even though it's pretty fair and like a champagne, it is still like a gold. So if you are wanting more of a cool tone type thing, I don't think this is really going to be for you. Another interesting note is I saw this on the Glossier subreddit. This is not going to be available on Sephora. I don't know if that's a for now thing or a forever thing. Kind of surprised by that. It's just available on Glossier.com and in Glossier stores. I love something like the Hollywood Flawless Filter or the e.l.f. Halo Glow. I just finished up the Lisa Eldridge version of that product, the Elevated Glow. I've had the Auric Glow Lust before. I love that type of shimmer goo. And when this launched, I was kind of confused and just curious about, is this like just a liquid highlighter? Because it is packaged and sized as something that's is just used for highlighting purposes? Or could this be like a really glowy skin tint? Could it be like the Hollywood Flawless filter? Because I feel like the packaging definitely suggests the Hollywood Flawless filter. And I do have the Hollywood Flawless filter in my collection now, so I'm going to swatch it against that. I will say upon initial swatches, it's definitely leaning more toward a true liquid highlighter. I really like glowy complexion makeup, and I like mixing in glowy things, even if I'm going to wear my skin a little bit more soft matte. So I could see me using this as a base, honestly. I kind of just want to swatch it against all of my highlighters before I even put it on my face, because I'm just curious about how it compares. Here are some swatches. The most germane swatches, I feel like, are the two under it. We have Glossier Lunar Skylight on top. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless filter in Too Fair. This is the Say Glowy Super Gel in Rose Glow. And then under this, we have Ilia Multi-Stick in Cosmic Dancer. And then over here, we have Ritual Defy Icepo, which is a cream highlighter. And then, just for curiosity's sake, this is REM Miss Mercury, which is a powder highlighter. There's definitely more of like a metallic element to this highlighter compared to the Charlotte Tilbury and the Say, and kind of just more frosty in general, like a typical highlighter. And I feel like larger kind of shimmer in it. Comparatively, the Hollywood Flawless filter kind of and the Say just kind of look like glowy tinted moisturizers. So I think that's kind of interesting. And I think you could probably tell in the swatches that Lunar is definitely like still on in kind of like that warm realm. So I don't think this is going to be like Glossier's answer to the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless filter, which is something I was really curious about. So I don't have any base makeup on right now. I just have some skincare. I obviously already have my eye look on. I was wearing makeup when I picked this up just like an hour or two ago. I took off my base makeup. I feel like for this product, even though it is meant more as like a traditional liquid highlighter, I would probably be likely to just wear this under stuff. So I think that's what I want to try initially. Maybe we'll also put some on top at the end, but this is how it looks on the applicator. I'm just gonna put some where I would normally put the Charlotte Tilbury, I guess. I think I'm gonna start blending with my finger just to see what that is. A little definitely goes like a pretty long way. I mean, it's pretty. I want to use a brush on the other side because I'm usually a brush girl. It didn't dry down completely on the other side yet, but I do think you probably don't want to leave this on too long. Yeah, I would work fast with this actually. I feel like you can kind of see. Yeah, if you leave it on too long, you can kind of see initially where you laid it down. So that's something to note. It's very pretty. It just reads more as highlighter than like natural skin glow, like something like the Charlotte Tilbury. I haven't used a ton of like pow liquid highlighters, I suppose. It's not like a cast or anything, but it is just like there's more of a metallic element to this than I guess I'm used to. So maybe this would be better over bases. But I'm going to put on some, I was about to say foundation, but I feel like with the Charlotte Tilbury, I usually like combine it with a concealer to kind of make a sort of skin tint like effect. I'm going to use my Kosas concealers, and I'm not going to do anything too full coverage, but just kind of place these where you need a little coverage. And I'm curious how much of the glow is left behind when you put something on top of this. So the glow is definitely still on my skin, and it looks kind of like a glow from within with that concealer on top of it. I actually really like the way it looks. I feel like there is a presence of this on my skin. I don't think it's like something that is completely traceless, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. And I do think it's not emphasizing texture, but I don't know if it's doing like a favor for my texture is how I would put it probably. But it is pretty, and I didn't have to use a ton which I think bodes well since this isn't something where you get an ounce like the Charlotte Tilbury, which is a pretty generous amount of product. But it is something where I didn't need as much. And it is a really pretty glow. So I am liking it so far. I just think it leaves a little bit more of a trace than that type of product. But I think it's also offering more of that kind of like metallic highlighty look. I do think something I learned is that it is really important to blend this out quickly. I think because it is probably has some of the more long wear property, and I really cannot like feel anything greasy on my skin. I think the tack I'm feeling is actually from the concealer, not this. I think since it does have kind of more of the long wear claims, when I blended it out, I noticed I went to this side first, used my fingers, it was fine. The places where I waited longer to blend it, it wasn't impossible to blend or anything, but I could just tell it almost reminded me of like a blush stain, where if you wait too long to blend it out, you can see exactly where you laid the product down in kind of like a more pigmented circle or whatever shape you laid that product down in. And I do think this is something where you have to work a little bit quicker, is what I'm trying to say. I'm going to apply some cream bronzer and a bit of cream blush, and then I think I'm going to put more on top just to see what that looks like. For those curious, I used the Ilia cream bronzer in Eclipse, and I actually mixed, I haven't done this I think before, I mixed Puff and Dusk from Glossier, since I figured we're here, and actually it's a beautiful blush color. Now, let's add a little bit more on my cheeks, and probably my nose. Like how I said, it's really important to work fast, and then I did the same thing where I laid all the product down at once and then had to like scramble. I'm not sure if I'm gonna love how this blends out, because I feel like on this side I just want it to be a little bit more dispersed, and it's really kind of wanting to commit to be in the line, like be in almost like highlighter stripe, when I really want it to be like more dispersed. I don't know if I love how this blends out, because again, and that thin line's also happening on this side, if that makes sense. I want it to blend out more, and it kind of just won't, it seems like. It's nothing awful, but it is kind of a pet peeve for me. So that's my really one big gripe so far. I will say I don't mind the brush. I think as long as you do have to wipe it off on the side, but then I kind of get what they're getting at. It is a little bit more precise and less globby than a doe foot, so I think that makes sense. And this is a pretty pigmented product, I will say. Especially coming from a brand like Glossier, I think if I had to guess, the Glossier customer is usually not using stuff. I feel like this, I don't even say this is high voltage, but I feel like for Glossier, this is pretty high voltage, and I think the mechanism to apply it was actually probably a good decision, because it is communicating you don't need a ton of this. So I think that's good. I think I'll probably use it more under makeup than over makeup. That's just more my vibe. Kind of some final initial thoughts. I like this a lot so far. I've definitely answered the question. It's definitely more in the highlighter realm than something like the Hollywood Flawless filter. I would be curious. I wish I had the Rare Beauty highlighter. I don't. I'd be curious to see how it compares to that, because I feel like that's the next product I kind of think of. Online, I wasn't sure. Like, are these more skin tone shades or more kind of highlightery golds and pinks? I do think they're kind of more highlightery golds and pinks. This area of my face is really... I need to show y'all. There's just this area right here where it didn't blend. And I think that's what happened initially before I even had base product on. And I can really see it, and it's kind of driving me up the wall. So that's the big con, I feel like, so far, or kind of just an unanswered thing for me. Maybe I'll come back and be like, I figured it out, it's fine. But the blend is not super there for me right now. I'm guessing it's a sacrifice because this is a more long wear, like non-sticky. Let me see if it's transferring on my finger. Yeah, not really transferring on my finger. I think it's probably as a result of that I feel like it wants to set really, really quickly. Not having the best blend to me feels is kind of like an old school problem, honestly. We have so much good makeup now, but maybe I just haven't cracked the code or something was off today. But that is the number one thing when I'm looking at my skin. I'm like, I wish the highlighter was blended out and blurred out and buffed out more. And as you saw, like after I blended it out, when I put it on top of makeup, it was done. It wasn't going to disperse anymore. It wasn't going to spread anymore. It's not a very spreadable formula. Maybe that's a better way to put it. It really does localize to wherever you put it. And I don't know if I love that. Maybe I'll figure it out. Like I said, I change my mind constantly about products. Maybe I'll figure it out and I'll find it's really good quality. Maybe when I lay it down, there's something different I should be doing. I don't know yet. But that's the initial con. I think it's a really beautiful glow. I kind of like that it has almost like more metallic cosmetic thing going on than something that's like supernatural and glowy. It's a little bit more of a punch. I thought one of my criticisms of this was going to be the size, that it's just over 1/4 of an ounce of product. I think that's plenty for how pigmented this is, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think for $24, I love this packaging. This is some of my favorite packaging, and it's simple, but it's some of my favorite packaging Glossier has done in a while. You have this kind of like raised G on the cap. I love the texture on the side, the nod to the pink, the millennial pink. The cap is a plastic, but this is like a really nice heavy glass. The product looked almost like, I don't know, icing or something. It's really pretty, and I'm excited to have this on my vanity. That's not going to matter to some people. To me, it does matter, and I'm a millennial, so I love the Glossier aesthetic. I'll try to do an end of the day check-in and see how it's worn. I'm not going to be doing anything too crazy today, but I do have some friends coming over that I'm hosting in a couple hours. But I'll try to do a check-in and put the footage in here. Okay, I wanted to show y'all in some natural light too. I'm standing right in front of my living room window. There's a dodgeball. It looks really nice, actually. Hey y'all, it is 9:51, so at least 6 hours later, and I'm happy to report it held up really well. You can see a lot of my base makeup is gone, but the highlighter is definitely still there. It's even still on my nose, which I feel like a lot of time my nose highlighter gets wiped off, so at least on initial wear, pretty good longevity. And thank you all so much for watching. I will say, if you are interested in purchasing this product, I will have it linked below. That will be an affiliate link, so if you're not comfortable with that, don't use that link. And please only make purchases that you're sure of or that you actually want. Don't feel pressured by me. You probably have a liquid highlighter in your collection. You probably have something like this if you're into this. If you don't, I think this is a cute option. I think $24 is a pretty good price. This is also not a review. Something I feel with new releases a lot is that I don't have all the information that I need to make the purchase. Because I could say I think this is nice, but then if I don't use this or mention this in a video for the next 3 or 4 months, what does that communicate to you? It hasn't gotten into my rotation. So I would not blame you at all if you would want to wait, see how you'll feel in like a few months when kind of the new shine wears off, see how it actually integrates into some creators' makeup routines, all of that. That's something I really try to do with new releases. I just thought this one would be a good one for me to buy because I feel like I have a good amount of knowledge to pass on about this product. If you did enjoy the video, give it a like. Helps me a lot in the wild, wild west to the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you want to see future videos. And thank you all so much for being here. We're going to be okay. Bye, y'all.